But the thing about Ultron that I want to say, and again, my warning to you is if you kind of want to watch this movie, if you want to, maybe you might want to watch the movie first and then hear my opinion about this. It's not spoiling anything, but just like what I said about certain, I don't want my voice in your head when you see this happen. So if you're afraid of that, maybe move on and come back to me in a week or so. But here's the thing about the thing about Ultron. I thought was kind of strange because I have never followed the ultimate version of Ultron. I know he was created by Tony Stark, I guess, or something like that, right? And I don't know how what Ultron creates later it fits into the ultimate world. But what I've always seen Ultron and Vision, especially Ultron, I always saw him like as this kind of like soulless robot. And, you know, I thought that James Spader was good for the villain he was creating in this movie version of Ultron. But it sometimes was just a little, sometimes too human, I guess. And I think a lot of that, when I reflect upon why Ultron was like a little too human at times, was kind of explained more or less because Tony Stark created him. So a lot of Tony Stark's persona is actually embodied in Ultron, which it took me a while watching that movie. I didn't really fully get that was kind of throwing me off a bit. And then the other thing with Ultron that kind of bothered me was the fact that for some bizarre reason he really is like a Disney villain. Like the entire movie, most of that time I just kept on thinking he's so Disney. And like, again, my Ultron that I know is very cold, soulless, robotic. You can't even see his eyes. It's just white, red eyes in the mouth, right? This Ultron had facial features, very detailed facial features, actually. And had, like, you know, you could, like, the face I'm making right now, you could see something like that on Ultron, something very detailed. Even when he was, like, listening to somebody, I was just like, this is weird. Like, it wasn't, for me, just for me, it was a very different type of Ultron that I can't really see. Like, it kind of turned me off just a bit. Ultron was making jokes as well at times, which were funny. It was funny, but it was just like, okay. And for whatever reason, going back to this thing about how Ultron was part of Tony Stark, the persona, but you know, Tony Stark, as far as I know, and Tony Stark is for the most part an atheist, but Ultron was making a lot of biblical quotes throughout the entire movie, which was really strange, actually. And I think at one time he even said like Jesus Christ or like Mother of God or something like that. Like, it was very weird, that part about Ultron. But at the end, there's a showdown between Ultron and someone else, I'll say. And you kind of, it was at that point in time I realized that maybe that's the decision, the reason they went with Ultron being that certain way is because the person he's facing was the exact opposite of what Ultron was supposed to be. And, you know, the persona was very yin and yang, night and day, basically. But one just saw the good in humans. The other ones just saw that the best thing for humans were to eliminate them or whatever. It was very interesting situation on that side, which I liked at that point. Yeah, that part was kind of weird. And in terms of building for phase 3s, this is probably the last point I'll make about in my review. In terms of building for phase 3, I think I think Guardians of the Galaxy handled Guardians of the Galaxy did a more clearer exposition of the Infinity War or Infinity Stones, basically, but it just seemed to be like blah, 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 really quick, really fast, so to speak. Whereas the way Age of Ultron handled it, if you already knew, you kind of knew basically, but the theories, some of the theories that were out there on the internet were exactly correct about where the Infinity Stones are and the rest of, like, where they're coming from, things like that. But they didn't really get into it too much. Not too much. There were no end credits. There was a mid-credit scene. There wasn't a Spider-Man end credit or mid-credit, so that shit was so fake. Whoever, yeah, don't worry about that. Spider-Man is not in this movie as far as I know. There are a few surprises in this movie as well. The jokes are there, but it helped move. That was the other thing about this movie, was there wasn't a lot of dialogue, and there was some downtime, but that never seemed that down. There's a lot of action and a lot of fight scenes in this movie, but it never was over the top, because it's that humor or that comedy, so to speak, or those quips, very much quips and such, that kept the movie going strongly. And this I liked a lot. I liked it a lot because every time the movie was going on, someone would say something or whatever, and you're just like, okay, that's cool. And then they would come back to that a little later throughout the movie. It was very well done in the terms of that. The pacing was very good. And what I will say is, it's probably, at this point, I think it's probably a good idea that Joss Whedon was wrapping up, and Age of Ultron 2 was the last one, or Age of Ultron was the last one for him, because I can see the Russo brothers getting back to maybe more of what people liked in The Winter Soldier. I think in terms of a solid story, The Winter Soldier was much better. Much better. But Age of Ultron 2 captured why did I say that? Avengers 2, the Age of Ultron, captured the team aspect of what the Avengers were all about. And toward the end, you really start to see that as when they start to rebuild as a team, you really start to be like, well, fuck, okay. It almost, a lot of this also reminded me of like the way the Justice League is kind of formed, how you have Trinity with Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. There was that form of a Trinity, so to speak, and more at the end of the movie, which I like that as well, because they really were building upon something that, if you read the comics or you're at least familiar with all the comic titles and such, you would be very impressed. Like, okay, this is cool. It wasn't just an Avenger. It didn't feel like just an Avengers episode. It felt like the Avengers building into more, which that part was really cool. Natalie Portman, again, I guess the contract was too much or whatever. She wasn't in the movie. Only mentioned. That was kind of funny. Scarlet Witch, I talked about Quicksilver in comparison to Days of Future Past. I think they did Quicksilver very different. But since they needed to use it, the thing about Days of Future Past was that scene was incredible. It was great. But if you had him in the entire movie, you're just like, why don't you just keep him in the entire movie? So they took him out real early. With this Quicksilver, you needed to use him throughout the entire movie. And I think they did a good job in that aspect of not having him completely go overshadow the rest of the team, so to speak. I think they did very well with him, and yeah, I'm looking forward to what happens to him. I'm still looking forward to see where that develops, how much further he can go. So let me know about that if you liked my review, and let me know when should I post my reaction, or when should I post basically the spoiler situation. I do want to talk to you guys about it in more detail, the spoilers. So I'm wondering, should I just wait till it comes out in America, May 1st, and then post? Or should I just post now and put spoiler tag or whatever? Let me know below. There you go. I'm about to go check it out again. It was good. It was very good. I'm about to go watch it again in 4DX. Again, if you're a fan of the team aspect of this movie, then you're gonna really like it. But in terms of like a very intriguing story building, nah, it ain't that type of movie. Nah, it's I'd say it's a pop. I don't like the term popcorn films because that's what, you know, Transformers is, and this is more to it than that, because the movie actually does make sense a lot. And I will say there are going to be, from my ever-loving DC only fans out there, there's going to be a lot of Man of Steel comparisons, but it's kind of funny because even I was thinking about that, but you actually see a lot of concern for civilian casualties, and a lot of characters keeping in mind body counts. And it was very interesting. I almost wonder if they did that on purpose, because of all the comparisons. But there's a lot of destruction and such. But they're always wondering about the body count. Very interesting on that side. Alright guys, that's it. I talked enough for now. Round 2's coming up later tonight, and maybe that's when I'll post my real spoiler thoughts or whatever. Let me know below what you guys think. Alright? And you know what? And fuck that one guy. I think he was one of the dudes that was really pissed off at my Batman vs. Superman trailer reaction, and he posted a spoiler at the bottom of one of my reactions or whatever, and yeah, I saw that morning, but you know what? It didn't even change the fucking movie. Like, it really didn't change. I still enjoyed that fucking movie a lot. So much, I'm gonna go see it again. Alright guys, I'll talk to you later. Peace.